What is going on? Welcome to the First Down Football Show. I am your co-host Andrew Graniskis,
And I'm your other co-host, George Takis.
and today we have a very special video for you guys. This is the official predictive mock draft for the 2026 NFL Draft from yours truly here at First Down Football. Just a reminder, if you're currently listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, we also have this available on YouTube, and we highly recommend that so you can see how our board is looking. But without further ado, we'll hop right into it. I think today I'm going to take the odds because last week I did the evens, and George will be responsible for the evens, so we'll switch it up. But again, disclaimer, this is predictive, not necessarily what we would do. We understand there's a lot of smoke going on and rumors. But one pick that neither of us will get wrong is that Fernando Mendoza is going to be a Las Vegas Raider. We've known this pretty much since January, and I expect this pick to be in pretty quickly. So Fernando Mendoza starting off at number one with the Las Vegas Raiders. Not much else to say about it.
Yeah, that's a pretty obvious pick. I feel like Mendoza already knows he's looking at the houses in Las Vegas and he's ready to get there. With the second pick, I have the Jets taking an absolute weapon here on the defense, someone who can play all over the place in Arvell Reese. Arvell Reese was such a productive player at Ohio State. That defense was full of them, but in my view, he's the best player in it. In that Jets defense, they need both linebacker and edge, and having someone who can disguise and do both could be very helpful for them. I don't know how this defense is going to move forward with what they're trying to do schematically, but Arvell Reese would be that guy if they wanted to be in a sort of disguise 3-4 where they could send multiple guys and also have more guys drop into coverage. They just got Demario Davis as well, who's really going to be that centerpiece of that defense, and it's going to be fun to watch that defense thrive with all the picks the Jets have.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a huge debate between Bailey and Reese. Who's it going to be? Who do the Jets have higher on their board? I think right now the better prospect might be Bailey, but the upside of Reese warrants the second overall pick. And I think if you're going on projection, what you can get out of the prospect, Reese comes in a little bit higher than Bailey. Um, Bailey at two is a little rich. I think I would take Reese. You look at Bailey's production, and obviously he was very productive for that Texas Tech D line, but it's pretty similar to Romello Heights' production, who is projected to go in the third round. So obviously Romello Heights a little bit smaller than Bailey, but what warrants going top two versus the third round? I think the upside projection of Reese and what he can be warrants pick two here for the Jets. It'll be interesting. They've gone back and forth. Initially, it was all Reese. Then, after the combine, there was some buzz about Bailey, and now this past week's been all Bailey. And then you have Dan Graziano saying that everyone in the Jets organization thinks they're going Reese, but it's really 50-50, and it's going to be one of the two players. But at three, where our mock draft could really get derailed, the Cardinals could stick and pick. They could go with a defender like Sonny Styles. They could go with a running back like Jeremiah Love, which has been the overwhelming majority of the smoke out of Arizona recently. Or they could do the other option and trade down. And that's what I have them doing here. The one and only trade in this mock draft today. I have Arizona Cardinals trading down with the Dallas Cowboys. I think it makes sense for both sides. The Cowboys have a lot of draft capital, obviously being in the first round. The compensation that I have is pick 12 and pick 20 from the Cowboys going to Arizona for pick 3 and 34. And the Cowboys can throw in 112 as well. So the trade has been accepted. The Cowboys move up to pick 3. They've done their homework on the edge rushers. They had Arvell Reese and David Bailey in for top 30 visits. They used their draft capital to move up to 3, select the much needed edge rusher for that defense, David Bailey.
I like that pick. I like David Bailey as a player. He's a very good prospect, good edge rush prospect who will change the pass rush of any team, and Cowboys are going to need that after looking at, losing Micah Parsons and making so many trades to trade up their team. They ironed out the interior defense, but they do still need some edge rushers, and that's the perfect fit. With the fourth pick here, we have the Tennessee Titans, which they have holes all over the place. But the main thing is you want to help out your second year quarterback as much as you can, allowing him to thrive. You don't want to take a defensive pick and leave him alone. You want, in my opinion, you'd much rather have a terrible, bottom seven defense in the league rather than like not help out your quarterback and get him the developmental pieces he needs. With that being said, I'm going to take the first wide receiver off the board, and it's going to be Jordan Tyson. Now,
Oh,
I know a lot of people don't like Jordan Tyson above Carnell Tate or even Makai Lemon with his injury history, but how dominant he was for with his 2 years at ASU, it was insane. His the different releases he has, his route running ability. He has everything he needs. He's long. He can go up for a 50-50 ball. He doesn't look open, but he still comes down with the catch. He's a true X. And that's what the Titans need. The Titans need to keep trying with offensive weapons for Cam Ward until something sticks to the wall. It doesn't matter how long it takes, but you need a good quarterback and you need him to develop.
wow. I'm very surprised, actually. I was ready to pick Jordan Tyson for the Giants at 5. There's been a lot of smoke about Jordan Tyson moving into the top 10 after his private workout last week. And with Barrett as well, I mean, when he is healthy, he is probably the best receiver in the class. I have Makai Lemon above him and Carnell Tate just because of the availability of those two players. But Tyson absolutely has the upside of being the best receiver in this class. If the Titans decide to go receiver, Tyson makes sense. He, could go to the Giants at 5. I look at the Chiefs at 9 as a landing spot. But that's a very interesting pick. I like it. I like it. I could see
There
it.
we go.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised you didn't go Jeremiah Love, to be honest. I mean, I don't like that pick. I don't think it's
They're,
a
they're too deep
wise
in the
one.
running back room for them to do that, in my opinion. Like, you don't take Pollard, you don't have Tajay Spears there just to, sit there and be a running back three. Obviously,
Yeah.
like they could trade away, but that's not a primary need of your team. Why? Obviously, you want to draft best player overall, but there has to be some talk of like, all right, we're already very deep at this position. Like, it may not be wise to still go that way when there are so many other gaping holes on that team.
Yeah. All right, with 5 of the Giants, now that my pick is off the board, I'm between two players here for the Giants, Jeremiah Love and Sonny Styles. For the last couple weeks, I've been mocking Sonny Styles to the Giants like clockwork. Recently, I've had him going at 4 to the Titans. Um, the Jeremiah Love pick here to the Giants, I know it's been mocked a lot. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I know it's a new regime coming in with Harbaugh, but you have Scat. Obviously, you didn't invest a lot into him. He was a fourth round pick last year, but you have Tracy there as well. And I just don't think this team is a running back away from going where they want to go. But I do believe that they are a elite defensive player away from being the type of defense they want to be. And you look at Harbaugh and his regime with the Ravens and how highly they valued off-ball linebacker. They drafted Patrick Queen in the first round. They traded for Roquan Smith. So obviously, Harbaugh really values having that green dot inside linebacker that can cover, but also is athletic and makes tackles. And that's what Sonny Styles does. He's smart and doesn't miss tackles. I have Sonny Styles here at 5 to the New York Giants. There has been some smoke recently. I don't know how true this is, obviously, because this is the season for it. But I think it was Peter Schrager who said that apparently if Styles is there at 5, the Giants are reportedly out on Styles. I don't know how true that is, but this is a hardball player to me, and so I think it makes sense with the Giants. And one note I want to add too about Jordan Tyson, I was getting prepared to pick him for the Giants, and I had all my reasoning as to why, because I thought we both thought it was going to be too early. Um, but Tyson had dinner with Joe Shane, the GM of the Giants, and um, I thought, I think if he's there at 5, I think that's going to be the pick.
All right. Yeah, I do agree with that because when was the last time the Giants drafted a linebacker in that first round? I think it goes all the way back to prior to the 2000s. Like they have never invested in that position too much, and it's time. It really shows because every other side of their defense or their secondary is a little questionable, but the front seven, other than the interior guys, has always been very strong.
Mm-hmm.
Next up with the Browns, I'm gonna make this really easy. They're going Francis Maunoa or Mau.
Yep. Now
All
and
right,
Noah.
no, perfect. He's next year's draft class is so much better than this one. I cannot wait for that. There are so many good prospects who have been dominating since their freshman year, whether that's edge or at quarterback. The Browns are just trying to, set up the pieces around that so they can draft a quarterback who will succeed next year. They'll ride another year with Shadur, let him have his one full year with the full off season, and he'll bring them what, 7-10, best chance. Francis Mauigoa is a good left tackle, and he could be that cornerstone for that offensive line after they lost their whole line this past
Basically, yeah.
offseason.
Yeah, the Browns have done a pretty solid job at retooling their offensive line, but they're definitely missing those cornerstone tackles. They traded for Titus Howard, which is interesting here because it seems like all the top end tackles in this class are right tackles, and obviously Titus Howard is playing right tackle, and they need that left tackle. Can Maui Noah make the change? Um, a lot of people have the Browns going receiver just because of the lack of true left tackle here, but Peter Schrager, who has the best, Peter Schrager and Daniel Jeremiah are the two guys that I kind of rely on for that insider information. And Schrager was saying that he really believes that this is going to be a tackle, and so Francis Maui Noah makes a ton of sense to the Browns. And it's going to be tackle or receiver. That's going to be the combination between 6 and 24, just where they get one, and how does that trade off later in the first round is still yet to be seen. But I like Malinois here for the Browns, the right tackle of the future. At 7, I'm going to go with what is the common thing here. The common notion that if Carnell Tate is on the board at 7, that's the Commanders guy. I'm going to select another Ohio State receiver to pair with Terry McLaurin. They need a second receiver very desperately, and Carnell Tate can be that guy who's super reliable, great hands, is a deep ball threat, 50-50 jump ball guy. He lacks elite route running and elite speed, but as a number 2 receiver with McLaurin there, I think they pair extremely well together, and you got to get your now third year quarterback some help because that offense was really lacking weapons last year, and with McLaurin, who was dealing with injuries and underproduction, that offense really struggled. So I have Tate here to the Commanders at 7.
I do agree with that. Carnell Tate is a complete player, good route runner. Doesn't really have that, game breaking speed that you would see at the combine, but he does have in game speed, which, is much more valuable because it's play. You want to care about the in game speed, not what they do on a 40-yard dash. With the next pick for the Saints, I have them going Ruben Bain. I have them replace being that drafting a guy to be that Cameron Jordan replacement. The Saints run a 3-4 defense, and I love that for Ruben Bain because he can play inside the tackles, play that 4-eye, or he can play on the edge, or not, sorry, not the 4-eye, play the 3 technique. He could do it all. He could play throughout that line, and In a 3-4, you want a D end who can do both, whether they have an outside rusher on the edge or they're all alone. And I'm a big fan of Ruben Bain. I love his game. The short arms is just people get too focused on the measurements behind draft picks, and that can work sometimes. Like you look at Nick Emmanwori, where all they cared about was his relative athletic score, and it worked. But other times it does not. Most of the time, it doesn't matter too much, and you want ball players. And Ruben Bain will be a cornerstone in this league. Mark my words.
Yeah, absolutely. When it comes to Bane, turn on the tape and watch him. Everyone talks about the production that Mesidor had. That's because the offensive line game plan was centered around Ruben Bain and his impact on a down to down basis. I really like this pick here for the Saints. I think it makes a lot of sense. Interesting note here I have on the Saints is they have not drafted someone that they've brought in for a top 30 visit since 2015. Notable players that they've brought in on top 30 visits: Jordan Tyson, Carnell Tate, Makai Lemon, Mansour Delane. One person they did not bring in, Ruben Bain. I think it sets up very well that they're
Hmm.
looking to they're bringing in receivers, they're bringing in corners, but I think the position they're really targeting here at 8 is edge. So Ruben Bain to the Saints makes a lot of sense. Okay, the Chiefs at 9. This is an interesting one because they very well could go offensive tackle here. Spencer Fano's there. I think Caleb Downs is in play. There's a big need at corner. And Mansour Delane there. Jamal McCoy is there. It's I I I don't know. The pick that I've had in my head is they go O line at 9 and they grab Avion Terrell later in the draft. But my plan was kind of bucked because of Francis Mauigoa going earlier. I'm gonna go Mansour Delane here for the Chiefs. You get a lockdown corner. That secondary needs some help, and Delane makes a lot of sense for the Chiefs. I could also see them going edge, but the top tier edge guys are off the board here. But for me, it was between Delane and Fano. Um, the question comes down to, can Fano play that right tackle spot? Some teams probably believe he can, and some teams will want to move him into guard. But I think grabbing the top corner on the board makes sense for a team that just lost their two best corners and their top safety last year.
I do like Mansour Delane, but my one thing is if Gerard McCoy didn't, what was it, tear his ACL?
Yep.
He doesn't do that. He's a top 5 pick in this draft because he was so good last year for Tennessee. And to carry on with that, that's why I have the New York Giants taking here with the
Whoa.
10th pick, a cornerback to help lock down that defense. The Giants have secondary has always been mid, no offense, with Drew Phillips being a good slot guy, but those outside guys weren't working too well. Deontay Banks, feel like it's long enough now to say he's a bust. He's not going to be that number one guy. He showed flashes, but he never really got there. And injury history is something to be very scared about. But look last year at Will Johnson. He was in that same situation, and he played pretty well for the Cardinals, and I see that carrying on. Jerome McCoy is going to be that number one corner for this New York Giants defense, and he's going to lock it down out there, taking every wide receiver one.
Yeah, Jamal McCoy's range will be interesting to see. I think he could go at 8, and I think he could go as low as like 25 to the Bears. It's going to be basically dependent on what teams think of his knee. There's some reports about degenerative knee, but I think what doesn't get talked about is the hole that the Giants have at corner. They need to invest in that. McCoy makes sense. Um, I was interested to see if you were going to take Love or Downs as well, with those two being on the board. Who I was debating at 5 as well, but I think McCoy has the upside to be a top 3 player in this class, so it makes sense there. And with the Dolphins at 11, it's between two players for me. It's between Caleb Downs and Spencer Fano. I think when you look at, the Dolphins are a team that they could draft anybody at 11 and you say, oh, yeah, they probably need that because of how many holes they have on this team. I think the best way to start the rebuild is to go with the best player in the class, or best player on the board, I should say, who's probably a top five player in this class, and that's Caleb Downs, the safety from Ohio State. He instantly comes into that defense as a leader and probably one of the smarter players on that team. You just traded Minka Fitzpatrick to the Jets, so you have a hole at safety, and particularly that secondary. New head coach Jeff Hafley is a defensive coach. Grabbing one of the best defensive players in the class makes sense here for the Dolphins at 11.
I do like that because that's one of the teams where they're waiting until next year to pick their quarterback. They don't really care too much. They're just trying to find a good player who can help out next year, and they're just picking best player available. So if Caleb Downs falls, he will go to. I don't know if I see him falling. I see a team trading up for him just because of the prospect he is, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think this is his range, like
Hmm.
5 to 11. I think he'll go somewhere in
Yeah.
there.
All right. With the Cardinals pick here, Cardinals are doing the same exact thing as the Dolphins, in my opinion. They're just trying to pick the best player available for next year when they do draft their quarterback, whoever that might be. And I think Spencer Fano is going to be the pick here. Spencer Fano is that big tackle who can really lock it down for your offensive line. And they do have Paris Johnson on that left side. Spencer Fano will be that right tackle of the future to pair up with him. He's played both left and right sides, just a big, strong tackle. There are issues with him, though, which, people talk about arm length with tackles. I am not a firm believer in that. Say what you want about Will Campbell, but I do think Spencer Fano will help out this O line for years to come.
And so
And
the
if
Jarrett, oh, good.
And if Spencer Fano if they want the coaching staff wants to move him inside, Cardinals still have holes at guard. Don't think that's what they should do, but there are holes everywhere on that line, and they're going to need him regardless.
So the Jeremiah Love slide truly
And,
begins here. I think getting your bookend tackles makes sense for the future of the Cardinals, but it'll be interesting to see where Love goes. I mean, he's not going to the Rams. Uh, like none of these teams really have a need at running back. Potentially a trade, but we will see. I don't have one going. I don't have a trade here. I have the Los Angeles Rams selecting Makai Lemon. I think they're at a point where they're just going to go the best receiver on the board. I think tackles in play as well. Potentially Monroe Freeling. I think corner is potentially in play as well. They've done their homework on the corners in this class. I know they brought in McDuffie and Watson, but I think you can never have too many corners, and that's a lesson that a lot of teams learned last year with a lot of injuries in the secondary. But rounding out that receiving core with Makai Lemon makes a lot of sense for the Rams, who are going on a true Super Bowl push.
I was gonna give Makai Lemon to the Ravens. I would have done that, but I guess he didn't want
I
to see
just don't
that
think
for the
he's
whole.
getting there though, unfortunately.
That's fair. Now, I know regardless of how I pick here, you will be angry at me, so
That's not true.
uh-huh, So I'm gonna need a second, honestly, because I was locking down on that. But one guy I really do like, looking at what the Ravens need after Metabuke was nowhere to be found. Rumors said in Texas, correct? Correct.
Well,
He was no.
Matabike was
Oh,
out because of a neck injury, but he just got surgery and he should be back.
okay. Well, with that being said, someone to pair up with him, who I could see being a flyer, even though we don't hear about it too much, is Peter Woods out of Clemson. Peter Woods he was one of those guys since freshman year. He's been dominating on that defense, and he's a real plug in that D line who can also rush the passer. And with the Ravens defense that needs a lot of positions, but their biggest issue was pass rushers not getting home. And he could do that as well. He's a all around great prospect. And I know Ravens need a lot of help at corner as well, but I see the cornerback depth being as good as the D tackle depth in this class, and they could go either or.
Well, I said I wouldn't be pissed, but I'm pretty
You're
pissed
pissed.
actually.
You're pissed.
Yeah. I mean, to me, if you're the Ravens, it's Vega Ioane no matter what. Now they may not do that because of some players that fall. Peter Woods at 14 is a little rich for me, and if they did this in real life, which I could see them doing, they have a huge need at three tech. Right now, their starting three tech would be Broderick Washington, who is coming off an Achilles injury. So Woods makes sense to the Ravens. Grabbing a three tech in the first two rounds makes a lot of sense. I'm just super high on Vega Ioane. The
Yeah,
Bucks. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah, it's either or after like what do you prefer at this point? Watching another season of someone same quality as Daniel Falele or just getting gashed in the run game? But
I just
yeah,
don't think you can. Yeah, you can't leave your success in the 2026 season up to Emory Jones, and that's just how I view it. You got to have multiple. It's better to overinvest in the offensive line than get screwed by banking on a second year player who was a third round pick. I'm
are
still
you
high
not a
on Emory
fan of
Jones.
Voorhees?
Voorhees is there, but he didn't play well last year. Both guard spots were an issue. They brought in John Simpson, but I
That's
think
not gonna fill a hole.
overinvesting. Yeah, I mean he's gonna be a left guard for that team, but um, at 15, the Bucks. I think outside of the Cardinals pick at 3, if they stick and pick, this is the hardest pick in the draft because they do need a lot, um, and so it is difficult. You know what they're gonna do. Um, I look at this as they have a coach who was on the hot seat and got out of it alive, and still the coach of the Buccaneers, and he's a defensive coach. So I think this pick will be a defensive player. The top end edge rushers are off the board. There's no linebacker here that I would take at 15. D tackle probably isn't going to go until later. I like Keldrick Falk for the Buccaneers. I know Buccaneers fans might not be excited. Keldrick Falk, obviously has been getting a lot of hate because of his basically non pass production. However, I think he has all the tools that allow him to have the potential to be a top end pass rusher. And worst case scenario, I've said this before, I'll say it again, he could be one of the best run defenders from the edge rusher position in the league because he has that type of physicality and setting the edge. And if he gets pass rush on top of that, it's perfect. But the Bucks need a guy that can go in and rush the passer, and you can get that from Falk.
Falk is I love Falk. A lot of people aren't high on him, but stopping the run is so overlooked because everyone says it's a passing league, everyone wants to see passes and pass rushers getting big sack numbers, but when it gets down to late in the season, playoff football, you're running in between the tackles often and early and often. And Keldrick Falk is a guy who can stop that, and he can develop to get better pass rush skills. I think the run stopping ability is much more important. With the Jets here, how far down is Jeremiah Love going to drop? Is he really going to drop to 18? Like, because I
I don't think
can't.
so. I look at 10 to the Giants. I think that's probably his floor.
Mhm.
I
Mm.
don't, if the Cardinals trade back, maybe.
All right. With with pick 16, I have the Jets going KC Concepcion. Now, I love Casey Concepcion as a player. He's just so elusive. He's so quick on his feet, lightning in a bottle. And the Jets need another receiver to help out in that offense with Geno Smith, who's apparently going to be that quarterback, and take some of the pressure off Garrett Wilson. He'll be a great slot receiver, and he's just so quick. Watching Texas A&M last year with him and Mario Cravers was something great to watch because both of those guys were unguardable, and it was and I'm not a Denzel Boston guy. I don't really like him. I don't think he's a polished prospect. I could see him dropping out of the first round with how recently those bigger receivers haven't done well, other than T Mac. T Mac was good. But you look at the other guys who were basic, who relied on that height. You don't want to go there. My mind, this may be a bias, but my mind goes to N'Keal Harry. Obviously, not similar play style, but those bigger receivers have a tougher time getting off the press and getting open. And so, and I have no doubt in my mind Casey Concepcion can get open.
Yeah, I like it. This is a pick that I had in the last one as well, and I think Concepcion gives something to the Jets receiving core that they don't have, and that's explosiveness. Obviously, it'll be a receiving core headlined by Garrett Wilson. You bring Concepcion as the two, and then your three is A.D. Mitchell, who is a guy that has a lot of upside and is still developing. At 17 of the Lions,
I feel
I'm
like
going to
this is a
go,
walk-in pick. Like everyone
yeah,
knows it.
based on what everyone has been told, um, and his current over under for draft position is 16 and a half. I think this is his floor. It's going to be Caden Proctor. Again, I want to say that this is predictive. This is not what I would do, but because I'm predicting what the Lions will do, I'm going to have them select Caden Proctor, big body offensive lineman who can play tackle. Will probably start at guard. Um, but for the Lions, they do have a hole at left tackle, right tackle, wherever Penei Sewell is not playing. They cut Taylor Decker, and they need someone to fill that role at tackle. So maybe they start Proctor at tackle. I don't think that would be a great move because in the pass game he can struggle, especially with speedier edge rushers. But nonetheless, Caden Proctor's the pick for the Lions.
I I know that the Vikings are looking for a safety replacement. I know that. But if Jeremiah Love is on the board here, they're not going to pass him up. They, I see that being like, I love Dylan Thieneman. He's a
Mm-hmm.
great player. Even at Purdue, he was phenomenal. But if Jeremiah Love is still there at 18, in a heartbeat, the Vikings are taking them with their lack of run game. You know, the Aaron Jones project didn't work out too well. Didn't he take a pay cut this year because of that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, they need someone to help out nine. I mean, you can give him Justin Jefferson, you can give him Jordan Addison, but you're gonna need some more help and solidifying that run game and not making him go into second and long or third and long helps out a ton. And Jeremiah Love is that home run hitter. How many times did he rip off 99-yard touchdowns in his collegiate career? Too many times. And he's just so athletically gifted, patience, vision, everything you could want out of a running back prospect.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't banking on Jeremiah Love being here at 18, and I don't believe this will happen, but in this scenario, the Vikings end up going away from chalk Notre Dame running back, which they would have gotten in the second round with Jadarian Price, and end up with the better Notre Dame running back, Jeremiah Love, at 18. At 19, the Carolina Panthers, I've been mocking this one for a while. I think Freeling is in play here. The Kemakwanu is dealing with the injury that will have him out all of next year. But they did bring in Rasheed Walker to fill that gap at left tackle for a 1 year rental. I think Thieneman's in play. The Panthers do need a safety. I think Omar Cooper's in play. I just can't see them drafting receiver in the first round 3 times in a row. I am going with Kenyon Sadiq, who I think adds another level to this offense, another weapon to Bryce Young's utility. Um, Sadiq is a guy who is a true tight end. He can be inline, he can split out to the slot. He has great hands, good after the catch, strong. But his one knock is he's probably not as polished as a route runner as you'd like to see, and as some of the other tight ends in the past couple of years that have come out. But he's a great blocker, and when tight end's been a position that there's been so much uncertainty for Carolina over the last couple of years, whether it was injuries or just not getting a lot of production out of that position. I think Sadiq solves your problem here at 19.
I do like that. I love Kenyon Sadiq as a prospect. In my perfect world, if I would love the Pats to trade up or, hopefully he drops down, but I don't see that happening. With the 20th pick, we have the Cardinals up again. They took Spencer Fano in the first, with their first pick. I really want to go. Sorry, could you say the name? The Penn State guard, Ola
Oh,
Vega,
Vega Ioane,
Vega Ioane. Because, but I don't, they're not going to pick two offensive linemen.
doubling up
The
on offensive
fan
line.
base would not be happy with that, but I don't see any edge prospects that would be too helpful to them. No quarterback. So with this pick, I'm
No Ty
going.
Simpson.
Ty Simpson's a day two pick.
You get him before the
Uh,
Steelers potentially.
you
I
don't get
mean,
him at all. You don't get him at all.
you don't have 34 anymore in this simulation because you traded it to the Cowboys. Is this Ty Simpson?
You
If you like him, you draft him.
well, I don't like him, and I won't draft him. So with this, we're
It's
going Dylan.
predictive.
It's predictive. Oh my God, it's predictive. It's predictive. They're not. What team is
I like.
like? No team is wasting a first round pick on Ty Simpson. You're genuine. You serious
Maybe
about
this will
it?
be a bad when we look at it and it's just ages horribly.
I don't think the Cardinals have the ability to like take a chance on that. Because you look at the rest of their division, they're gonna get their divisional opponents are they're in the toughest division in the NFL. You really think they're gonna be like, oh yeah, let's put a rookie out there. Someone who's not proven, not very good, never really had that first round draft buzz until the need was there. Until we went through free agency, saw teams that didn't pick up a quarterback and there's need. You don't draft for need. That that's how you get fired as a GM. The pick here is Dylan Feineman.
It fills a hole of safety, absolutely. My only argument for Simpson is, I mean, maybe I'm higher on him. I mean, I have an early second round grade on him. I would potentially like the Cardinals to trade back up into the first round if they have 34, trade 32, trade for 28 with the Texans, and get a fifth year option on him. I think it's a low risk, high reward pick. And the thing about Simpson is early in the year, he looked really good. I mean, the first half of the Georgia game, the Mizzou game is one that sticks out to me. He had really great zip on the ball, and no quarterback has walked into Athens and performed the way he did in that first half, absolutely shutting down that crowd. Um, Arm strength is a little bit of an issue with Simpson, but when you look at why he wasn't able to produce and why he looked bad down the stretch, because he had no O line and no run game. So obviously, that's always going to equate to no offense. So I'm a little bit higher on Simpson. I think he had a really bad situation at Alabama, which is not something that we usually say about Alabama quarterbacks. But I think this year it is valid. However, again, I understand the whole notion about don't draft a guy unless he is your franchise. Um, at 21, the Steelers, I think they would run this pick to the podium. Ty Simpson. No, I'm just kidding. Vega Ioane, Penn State guard, comes in and fills an immediate need at left guard for the Steelers. They lost Isaac Sayamalu this offseason to the Cardinals, and I think Ioane would be a home run pick for the Steelers at 21. I, as a Ravens fan, have this gut wrenching feeling that they are going to trade up to 13 to the Rams, jump one spot ahead of the Ravens, and draft Vega Ioane in Pittsburgh too. The draft's in Pittsburgh just to shove it in the Ravens' face. But Ioane is the best guard in the class and my best offensive lineman in this class. I think his ability, he is just a mauler, whether it's in the run game or pass game. He needs to develop a little bit better as a pass protecting uh, guard, but I really don't see him not having a 10 to 12 year multi Pro Bowl career in the NFL.
With that being said, that would have been my pick for the Chargers. Regardless of who is best player available, Chargers don't really have an option who they should go, in my opinion. I see this guy being a draft riser tomorrow. I am betting on him being drafted in the first round, and that is Emmanuel Pregnon out of Oregon. He's a huge, huge guard prospect. Big guy, can protect the pass well, gets to the second level, which is huge as a guard. Because if you can't do it at the college level, you're not going to be able to do it at the NFL. And he's going to fit that Jim Harbaugh scheme of running it down. We're going to run it down your throat. If there was a wide receiver prospect I was comfortable with, then perhaps I like Omar Cooper. But how many times are they going to draft a wide receiver in the first 2 days? And it's not going to pan out. At some point, you got to look in free agency or trading and be like, all right, we don't assess our players correctly. We need to pay the price and trade for someone. And the O line for the Chargers has been bad as a result of, the interior line wasn't good. You had Zion Johnson who didn't play well. You had injuries at both tackles with Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater. But you can't go into the season letting two first round busts go at guard. You're not Philly, who's going to bring Mekhi Becton to be a great guard. It's not going to be like that. I don't trust Cole Strange. I don't trust Penning. Pregnon will be a good guy to put some fire under their asses and like make them play better. Or
Yeah, I
you know
agree.
what I mean.
This pick is trenches, whether it's offense or defensive line. It's going to be trenches. The way they build that roster with Harbaugh there as head coach makes a lot of sense for Pregnon, a guy that I really like going later in the first round here, in the 20s. Um, at 23, the Eagles, they're in an interesting spot. I think one name that has been mocked to them a lot, and I really like the fit, is Max Ianachor from Arizona State. He's a guy who played soccer in Nigeria before coming over here to the States to play college football. He had not played football prior to that. Um, and he, is a guy that obviously needs a lot of development, but Shore would be a great replacement for Lane Johnson when he has played his final snap in Philly. I'm going to go in a little bit of different direction. I think edge is a huge need for the Eagles. Mesidor's here at 26, but a guy that I think fits the Eagles' profile of edge rushers. Super athletic, can get after the passer, really good pass rush moves. Go down the board here a little bit. We go Malachi Lawrence, who is really low on this board actually. I think his betting odds to go in the first round are minus 210 right now, and I think he will be a first round pick. I think this is probably the earliest he could go. Potentially, if the Cowboys have 20, he could go there, but I think he fits this Eagles scheme really well. Twitchy, bendy, super athletic edge rusher that can produce from that spot. So I really like Lawrence here to the Eagles.
I don't know if I like that so much with the Eagles. Like, obviously, that's what the Eagles look for in pass rushes on the outside. But how has that worked for them? Nolan Smith, he isn't a game changer, in my opinion. They haven't really had one since their last Super Bowl run with Sweat, Josh. But I would much, I know you're not as high on him, but I would much rather see Mesidor.
I
I
like
like
Mesidor a
it.
lot. I would be comfortable with him in the top 20, like from 15 to 20.
Perfect. All right, for this next pick, Denzel Boston is going to keep dropping down the board because he is not a good prospect in my eyes. We're going to take Omar Cooper Jr. here to the Browns after they took a tackle earlier. They're going to get a receiver. really build up that terrible offense after having the top defense. Or was it the top defense? It must have
One
been
of them, yeah.
something close. Yeah. Omar Cooper is a great player. He's so explosive. He can play that slot role for them, which I feel like they haven't had a good slot since Jarvis. Is that crazy to say, the Browns?
Probably. Yeah, no, I think it's accurate.
And he can be perfect for that. He's a good run after the catch guy. The biggest thing, correct me if I'm wrong, one of the biggest things you want to see out of a receiver going to the next level is that you don't want them to get off their feet when they're catching the ball. You want them to be able to stay in stride when running and really get after it. And that's what Cooper is. And he was really good at it. And he just brings everything you need as a receiver to the table. Obviously, he's not better than the receivers taking pride in him, but I think he's a good fit here.
Yeah, I'm really high on Omar Cooper. He's my fourth ranked receiver in this class. His age is a little bit of concern. He's 25 years old, so that could cause him to slip a little bit. He comes from a scheme that is very RPO and quick pass heavy, but he's physical over the middle. He makes the tough catches. I think if the Browns walked away with Maui Noah and Omar Cooper, that would be a hell of a first round for the future in Cleveland. At 25, I'm up here with the Bears, and while interior defensive line is a huge need, you have Caden McDonald staring you down at 25, but I feel like going edge rusher is just way more important, and you can address McDonald or you can address defensive tackle in the second round. You have two second round picks. I'm gonna go with Key Mesidor here. I think it makes a lot of sense when you look at the Bears edge rushing room right now. They have Montez Sweat, and then it's Deo Adengbo. I don't know if that's a pass rushing duo that you're comfortable with. I think Mesidor and Sweat would be a really good um, pair together and would cause havoc, and that's what the Bears succeeded on last year was causing turnovers. And so improving your pass rush and getting more pressure only helps you in that aspect.
I love Mesidor as a prospect. I think he was overshadowed by Bain, but I think he's a really good player, and I said that on a prior podcast. With this pick here, I see Bills going edge or D tackle. And for this mock draft, I have them going Lee Hunter out of Texas Tech. I love Lee Hunter as a prospect. He was so stout for that interior D line at Texas Tech, being able to stop it. I want oh my God, I can't remember. Do you remember he played a different position at he played a different position previously at UCF, I want to say. I want to say it was a DN moved inside.
Hmm.
Do you know anything about that?
I don't know, but
Yeah.
he's a big boy. I don't know if he played D end.
He's a big boy and he's a pass rusher. That's the biggest thing. From the interior line, Ed Oliver, like he was drafted to be that guy in the interior, and he's been solid. He just hasn't excelled. And I don't know if I like Deontay Walker starting as your D tackle because he was a project guy who did fine last year, but I still don't want to rely on him as my defensive tackle too. Obviously, edge is another need, but I feel like D tackle is much bigger.
Yeah, I could definitely see them addressing D tackle here. At 27, the Niners are an interesting team. They just extended Trent Williams. However, I this is where I have the Monroe Freeling slide ending. I think he's a guy that you don't have to start this year. Um, he is a super raw prospect, but with that being said, he's probably the most athletic tackle we've seen come out in the last couple of years. And in this Niners scheme, which requires athletic offensive linemen, I think it would be a perfect fit. And the Niners would run this card to the podium if Monroe Freeling's on the board. He could potentially play right tackle too. I know McKivitz has not been great for the Niners, and so having Freeland as an option there, but also, it prepares you for life after Trent Williams, and you can't go wrong with Freeling here at 27. I think it's an absolute steal.
I do agree with that. And with the Texans pick here, there's a lot of ways they could go.
This is another hard one.
Ideally, there would be some guy who could play that interior offensive line for them. I could. There's been a lot of buzz. Would it be ridiculous if Keelan Rutledge came into the first round here at the end?
I
I
don't think so. I'm a
I
Keelan
do
Rutledge
I
end of
don't
the
think
first round
so.
guy.
I don't think so. He's a big, stout guard who, when you see pulling, he's great at that. He excels at it. And Brent Key was a guard for Georgia Tech back in the day, and he has spoken so highly of him. I love this guy as a prospect, and Houston needs to go into O line, and they need to really, really invest in the O line for C.J. Stroud because he was seeing ghosts out there, and it obviously showed.
Yeah, I'm a big Keelan Rutledge guy. I didn't understand early in the draft process when he was being projected to go in the fourth round. I didn't understand that. A guy with very few flaws in his game. He even has center flexibility as well. I really like Rutledge. I firmly believe he'll be a top 40 pick, if not a first rounder. And he's my guard three. So obviously he's the third guard to go here. Keelan Rutledge, the Texans. The Chiefs, I previously had them selecting Mansour Lane. So it kind of takes Avion Terrell off the board. Potentially could still be in play though. If you have Delane on the outside, Terrell on the inside, I think you're okay waiting at corner right now because of the fact that there are so many corners still on the board and you have pick 40. So one of Colton Hood, Brandon Cisse, Avion Terrell, Pons, one of those guys is going to be there at 40. So I think you go somewhere else with this pick and address a different position of need. I'm gonna go. I don't think I've mocked this one before, honestly. I'm gonna go Blake Miller, the right tackle out of Clemson for the Chiefs. I think it makes a lot of sense. That O line needs a lot of work for Kansas City. They cut Jawan Taylor this past season, and I don't know if Jalen Moore is the answer this year, and he's definitely not the future at right tackle for the Chiefs. It's something that I was debating going at 9. If Maui Noah was on the board at 9, I would have taken him. But going Blake Miller, a guy who has a lot of experience at Clemson, who can be your plug and play right tackle and keep your quarterback, Justin Fields, for the first couple of weeks, and then Mahomes upright, is going to be huge. So grabbing Blake Miller at 29, I think, is a no brainer for the Chiefs.
Well, here, I think we're going to finally take him. We talked earlier about the Dolphins not being near win now. With that being said, I could see them going, you're going to have to say it, Max, what's his name?
Ianachor.
Ianachor. You know, a really raw tackle prospect, but he could honestly end up being the best guy in this. He has his basics are very good. Shoulders are square. He started getting better like with counter moves and stuff, but he's a very athletic tackle. Playing soccer for so long and only switching to football now. I could see the Dolphins being like, all right, he's a project. Malik Willis, you're gonna have to bite it the first year, but next year you'll be a good guy. But it's a big thing of giving him that time to develop, and the Dolphins got nothing at time because they're not even close to trying to win now.
And it makes sense. I mean, you have Austin Jackson there for one more year at right tackle, prepping Ianachor for that position after Austin Jackson. Makes a lot of sense for the Dolphins and definitely a good move for the future. And it stole my pick for the Patriots, actually. I was going to select him for the Patriots to be the Morgan Moses replacement. However, we're going to go in a different direction now. I am going to go with a guy that the Patriots need and a guy who had first round buzz at one point and then kind of fell out of nowhere. I'm gonna go Brett Thorson, punter from Georgia. No, I'm just kidding. Just want to piss you off.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go T.J. Parker, a guy from Clemson, who had a great Senior Bowl week in Mobile, and makes a lot of sense for the Patriots who need edge rusher. I don't think Draymond Jones is the answer there, and you need pass rush after losing Caleb on Chase on. So T.J. Parker uh, to the Patriots, I think he fits that scheme well and could be a very productive edge rusher for New England. Thoughts?
Don't get me started. I think Caleb Chason was. I liked him since when he was drafted. I remember we had a podcast for that draft, and we talked about him getting
Mm-hmm.
drafted. We thought he'd be a good player. I still don't think he's a very good player. I think he was just a product of a scheme with two top top 15 caliber D tackles inside. You're bound to get some good pass rush. Harold Landry on the other side. And I think a rookie TJ Parker could fit well in having a stout defensive line around him where he just has to go against one on ones. And, you know,
I mean, regardless, you need edge rusher. I think.
no, yeah,
I don't
that's what I
think
mean.
Draymond
But
Jones and
I'm
Harold Landry is going to solve your problem.
no, I'm angry if they don't draft linebacker, edge, or tackle with that first pick, with that first round pick. I
It's
don't
fair.
see a need as glaring as any of those. With the last pick in this draft,
Close this out in the 2026 year.
just sneaking in to the first round, we have Jadarian Price out of Notre
Wow.
Dame. Jadarian Price was hidden behind Jeremiah Love the whole season, but the funny part about it is even with such a strong prospect, he still produced decently well. And I could see a lot of teams seeing that, being like, there's another guy here. There aren't going to be more running backs that are going to get drafted till day 4. And they could pick the Seattle Seahawks coming off their amazing season, their Super Bowl winning season, and losing Kenneth Walker, they're going to want another guy to be there with Charbonnet, be that 1-2 punch and someone who can stay a long time on that rookie contract. I think it's perfect here.
I like it. It's a good pairing with Charbonnet. And this is your 2026 mock draft. So I think it looks pretty good. I like the top 10. I think it looks good. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Love falling is a little surprising. But I
Yeah.
think outside of that, it's pretty good. And you never know, there's always draft surprises. So,
All right. All right.
but any closing thoughts?
It's going to be a fun draft tomorrow. A lot can happen. It'll be good to watch. Hopefully, ends up well for our two teams. But now
Exactly.
it's just
Vega
waiting.
Ioane no matter what for Baltimore. Come on now.
We got T minus 28 hours for the draft, and it's going to be a good time.
Exactly. Can't wait for it. We'll be back after the draft to grade the picks and the draft classes and give you our thoughts on how everything played out over the 3 days in Pittsburgh. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you after the draft.